Why should you have to wait for COVID to come around to talk about preparing for death?
The pandemic put a strain on families who had to bury their loved ones who died from COVID-19. Now, the federal government is stepping up to help those struggling to cover the costs.
ABC 27 Sunrise anchor Angela Green breaks down what we know about the process and which expenses qualify for reimbursements.
The COVID-19 funeral assistance funding is retroactive to last January when the pandemic first started. Local funeral homes are warning families to gather your paperwork now and watch your expenses because the Federal Emergency Management Agency, known as FEMA, is only reimbursing up to a certain amount. Fiona Nicholson has been in the funeral industry for nearly 3 decades, and one thing she's learned over the years is the need to help grieving families stay organized.
We do what's called an aftercare visit with families, 7 to 10 days after the services, to help them go through a checklist, make sure that they have, who to notify, how to notify them. And things like FEMA reimbursements.
To receive the COVID-19 funeral assistance, the Federal Emergency Management Agency will require you to provide an official death certificate, receipts, and proof of funds that came from other sources. FEMA will not reimburse you for benefits received from burial or funeral insurance or funds received from voluntary or government agencies. John Ricco with the Florida Cemetery, Cremation, and Funeral Association explains how the process for reimbursements will work.
FEMA is establishing the process right now. The preliminary outline that they put forth is that they will have a 1-800 number that families can call. Once they call and give some preliminary information, they'll be assigned a case number, and then ultimately in April, FEMA will have a web portal where they can go in, they can enter all the data on their loved one, they can upload receipts and contracts and proof of expenses.
FEMA will pay up to $9,000 in expenses per funeral, while those who lost multiple family members can apply for up to $35,000. At Strong & Jones Funeral Home, Thomas Griffin Jr. says COVID put a huge burden on families, killing multiple family members just weeks apart, and paying for a funeral out of pocket only adds to the grieving process.
We're trying to make it convenient for the families because you gotta realize some family members don't even have the jobs. The employment that they used to have.
Now, some of the eligible expenses include burial or cremation, as well as costs associated with headstones, clergy services, and transfer of remains.
The $10,000 margin will be a decent and average funeral. So I've seen some funerals all the way up to maybe we could say $20,000, if not $30,000.
Griffin's advice to families: plan for your funeral costs now.
Why should you have to wait for COVID to come around to talk about preparing for death?
Now, FEMA has received reports of scammers reaching out to people offering to register them for funeral assistance. FEMA has not sent out any notifications and does not contact people prior to them registering for assistance. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Angela. And FEMA will begin accepting applications April 12th and will not be accepted online. You'll have to call the FEMA 1-800 number to start that process. We've put all those details with this story at WTXL.TV.